Hello students, welcome to Zoology Classroom. This is Yel Mahesh, Assistant Professor of Zoology from Tara Government Degree College, Sangareddy. In today's class, we are going to discuss about introduction to respiration. This particular topic comes under final year BSc Zoology, 5th semester. So before going into the topic, let us know what is the definition of respiration. So I know most of you all say respiration is breathing in and breathing out, or taking air into lungs and leaving carbon dioxide, air with carbon dioxide outside of the lungs. So this is being learned since our schooling. But that is not 100% correct answer. Breathing in and breathing out. In other words, inhalation and exhalation are not the whole part of the respiration. They are a part of the respiration, but that is not the respiration. So respiration is a life process. Respiration is a life process. What is life process? Life process is such one which is very, very essential for the continuity of the life of the individual. So if the life process is not performed, if the life process is stopped, the animal, the organism will die. So for the survival of the individual, life processes must go on in that individual. If any of the life process is stopped, the individual cannot survive. So there are a couple of life processes which are very, very important, which are very essential for the survival of the individuals. Out of them, nutrition is one. Nutrition is a very, very important life process by which we will get food. From food, we will get energy. So ultimately, for the survival of the individual, the organisms require energy, and the energy will be provided by the food materials. So this life process of digestion provides us with the food materials which are very, very essential for the getting of energy. So that is one life process. Another life process is respiration, which I'm going to discuss about today. So in respiration is a very, very essential, like digestion, nutrition also. Why? Because through respiration only we will get the energy which is stored inside the food materials. We will discuss about this particular respiration process a little later. Now, let me explain about other life processes. So, coming to the third life process, that is uh, excretion. Excretion also is very, very important life process. If excretion is stopped, organisms will die. What is excretion? So due to the various life processes, many unwanted materials, many useless materials, in other words, many harmful materials will be produced in our body as byproducts. And these waste materials, these unwanted materials have to be eliminated from our body. If they are not eliminated, they will become harmful to our body. So eliminating such waste materials which are not used or which are not useful for the animal, that purpose will be served by the life process called excretion. So excretion is a life process by which our body gets rid of unwanted waste materials. That is very, very important one. And next, another life process is circulation. Circulation is also very, very important for higher level of organisms. So what is the purpose of the circulation? Circulation serves the purpose in such a way that many materials in our body have to be transported from here to there and from there to here. For example, in our body, we will take food through our digestive system. Our small intestine will absorb the digested food materials, but these absorbed materials have to be transported to all parts of our body. Why? Because food is very, very important for all other body parts, but food will be grabbed or food will be absorbed by digestive system only. So in that way, digestive system is taking food into our body, but that food is required by all other body parts. So in that way, there is a need of one person who have to transport these food materials from digestive system to all other body parts. That purpose will be served by circulatory system. And in the same way, by utilizing the food materials, all body parts will produce waste materials like carbon dioxide, urea, and so on. So all these waste materials also have to be eliminated from our body parts to the exterior. And that purpose also will be served by this circulatory system. So in this way, circulatory system, blood is very, very important one. Why? Because blood only will perform these functions. What functions? Transporting digested materials from digestive system to all other body parts, in transporting nitrogenous waste materials, carbon dioxide from all other body parts to lungs and kidneys, and transporting hormones from endocrine glands to all required body parts. Like this, circulatory system, especially blood, will do this function of transporting materials from one place to another place. So that is also very, very important. When that purpose, when that process is stopped, when that process has obstacle, then the organism will die. So in that way, circulation also is very, very important life process for the organism. And coming to another most very important one, that life process is called reproduction. So reproduction also is very, very important for the continuity of the life. Even some organisms, they may not die if they do not reproduce. We know that in humans and in some other animals also, some sterile animals, some sterile couples will be there who will not have any offspring or children. Even though they are not reproducing, they are able to survive. So reproduction is not essential for the survival of the individual, but it is very, very essential for the survival of the species. So in that way, life process is to be accurately defined. What we have to say is that life process is a life process is very, very essential for the survival of the individual and its species. So in that way, these five are the very, very important life processes, like what? Digestion, respiration, excretion, transportation, and reproduction. So now let us come to the respiration, which is our very important and current topic, today's lesson. So coming to the definition of respiration. So what is the definition of respiration? Respiration is a process that occurs in all living organisms, not only in animals. It occurs in plants and it occurs all microbial organisms also. So what happens in this process? This process involves the production of energy. So we know that food is having energy, and that energy production, energy liberation process is called as respiration. Typically with the intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide from the oxidation of complex organic substances. So what happens in this respiration process? We will take oxygen and we will add this oxygen to the food material. Then what that process will be called? That process is called as oxidation of food materials. Food materials are nothing but they are complex organic molecules. So oxidation of food materials to liberate the energy is called as respiration. So respiration is a life process. So what you have to say from today onwards, when someone asks about the definition of respiration is a life process by which energy is liberated from the food materials by the oxidation process. So respiration is nothing but it is a oxidation process. Whenever oxidation is done through the oxidation process, energy will be released from the substrate molecules. Here, substrate molecules are food materials that we have taken, and the purpose is liberating the energy or releasing the energy. And for that releasing of energy, oxygen is very, very important. So respiration is a process that occurs in all living organisms by which energy is liberated from the organic molecules by the oxidation process. Simply, we can say that respiration is a oxidation of food materials to release the energy. So that is the accurate answer for the definition of respiration. So coming to the phases in respiration. So we have already seen that what is respiration. Respiration is nothing but liberation of energy from the food materials by the oxygenation or by the oxidation process. Okay, this occurs only in living organisms. So outside of the living organisms also, oxidation process may take place. That process also liberates energy, but that process is not called as respiration, but is called as combustion. For example, we may burn a wood, we may burn some materials, we may burn some papers, some books, any material you can burn. So whenever you burn any material, from that material, what will happen? Energy will be liberated in the form of heat, in the form of light. Okay, so in this way, energy liberation process is possible outside the living organisms also. So that is also oxidation of organic molecules. In some cases, they may be inorganic molecules also. So organic molecules are able to able to undergo oxidation process, and they also release, but that process is not occurring inside a living organism. Hence, that is not called as respiration. Instead, that is called as combustion. So combustion and respiration are different. Respiration occurs in living organisms, combustion occurs in non-living organisms or outside the living organism's body. So in this way, coming to the respiration phases, respiration, as we have already seen, is the liberation of energy. Respiration is the process of liberation of energy, which involves three phases. They are external respiration, internal respiration, and cellular respiration. Now let us see about these three phases of respiration one by one in detail. So first one is external respiration. So external respiration involves two phases. One is inspiration, it is also called as inhalation. Another one is called as expiration, also known as exhalation. And this is the definition we usually say when someone asks what is respiration. Okay, now I think now you are aware of what is respiration and what this inspiration and expiration are. They are actually a part of the respiration. Actually, in respiration, there are three phases: internal respiration, external respiration, and cellular respiration. Out of these phases, one phase is this one, external respiration. In these two sub phases are there: inspiration or breathing in, expiration or breathing out. We also call these processes as inhalation and exhalation. So what is the use of these inspiration and expiration processes? Why? Because we know that for the liberation of energy from the food materials, oxygen is very, very essential. So, and where the liberation of energy has to take place, it has to take place in each and every part of our body. Okay, liberation of energy has to take place in each and every cell of our body. But as we are very complex structured organisms, our body structures are very complex, so that all our cells are not in contact with external environment. So all our cells are not directly able to grab the oxygen from the atmospheric air. So that there is a need of transporting oxygen. Okay, there is a need of transporting oxygen from external environment to each and every cell of our body. So for that purpose, respiratory systems have been evolved in highly complex body organisms. For smaller organisms like protozoans, respiratory organelles or respiratory systems are not required. Why? Because the animal itself is a single-bodied or single-celled organism. So the cell is in contact with the surrounding water, from which it can directly absorb oxygen, and into which it can directly expel carbon dioxide also. So receiving oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide is not a big problem for single cell organisms like chlorophyta and protozoans. Whereas the higher level organisms, as their bodies have got complexity in their shape and structure, inside cells also they require oxygen. To supply oxygen, respiratory system has been developed. So in this process of external respiration, the respiratory system is absorbing oxygen and pumping into blood, and uh, receiving carbon dioxide from the blood and expelling out. So it is aiding the real purpose. It is aiding the external respiration is aiding to the real purpose. In other words, respiratory system is just helping out in the respiration process. Respiration oxygen is required for each and every cell of our body. So that help is done by this respiratory system. So in this way, respiratory system performs these two respiratory movements called as inspiratory movements, expiratory movements. And in these movements, diaphragm helps and intercostal muscles also help in these movements, and respiratory system also undoubtedly takes place in this process. So in this diagram, we can see that outside this body of the person, environment is there, atmosphere is there, it is full of oxygen, it is having 21% of oxygen inside it. To receive that oxygen and to send that oxygen into the blood, these lungs are being helpful. So in the inspiration process, oxygen along with the air, oxygen enters into the lungs, and lungs, they will send the oxygen into blood, and they receive carbon dioxide from blood, and they will send these lungs send the carbon dioxide to the exterior or outside by the second phase process called exhalation or expiration. So this is about external respiration. Coming to internal respiration. In internal respiration, there are two phases. Two phases are there. One phase is called as oxygen transport phase. Another phase is called as carbon dioxide transport phase. And this process occurs in between blood and, okay, internal respiration occurs in between blood and tissue. Whereas the external respiration, it occurs in between lungs and blood. Okay, external respiration occurs. External respiration involves two systems. One is blood, another one is lungs. So in external respiration, lungs are sending oxygen into blood, blood is sending oxygen into lungs. Okay. So as a result of external respiration, now the blood at lungs is having oxygen. Now this oxygen has to be transported to each and every part of our body, each and every cell of our body. So that phase is called as oxygen transport. So as the blood is a liquid tissue, okay, and as it is having some oxygen transporting molecules like hemoglobin and all those things are there. So blood is having the ability of transporting oxygen from lungs to all other cells in our body. So when the blood carries oxygen from lungs to the cells, and where it gives the oxygen to the cells until that part, that is called as oxygen transport phase. And once the oxygen transport phase is done, now what happened? The blood at the tissues, it has lost oxygen. At the same time, tissues, what they will do, they will give back carbon dioxide to the blood. So, like this, blood is carrying oxygen from lungs to the tissues, and at the tissues, it is giving oxygen to the lungs, sorry, oxygen to the tissues, and the blood is receiving carbon dioxide from the tissues. And now, in return journey, the blood will take this carbon dioxide again to the lungs, and in the next cycle of respiration, in the next cycle of respiration, this carbon dioxide will be sent into the lungs. Okay, in this way, in internal respiration, what's happening? It is occurring in between blood and tissues. Blood is supplying oxygen to the tissues, and carbon dioxide is being supplied by the tissues to the blood. So in this way, both blood and lungs are performing the process. What? Oxygen is being pumped into the blood by the lungs, and blood is supplying this oxygen to the tissues. In return journey, blood is taking carbon dioxide from the tissues, and after coming to the lungs, it is giving carbon dioxide to the lungs, and finally lungs, they will send carbon dioxide out of our body. So in this way, lungs and blood are helping to supply oxygen to each and every cell, and send all the carbon dioxide out of the body. So by the end of these two products, our cells, they will have oxygen inside them. So here in this diagram, we can see what happens in the internal respiration. So in internal respiration, see, this is a tissue cell. Both these are two tissue cells, and this pink color one, it is a blood vessel wall. Okay, the blood vessel wall, it is having endothelial cells, and all this thing, it is the blood which is inside the blood vessels. So this is a blood plasma and this RBC. So RBC is bringing oxygen and releasing into the tissue fluid. This is tissue fluid, or it is also called as interstitial fluid. So into the interstitial fluid, RBC will transport oxygen from interstitial fluid. Again, oxygen enters into the cells. And in return, what happens? Carbon dioxide enters from the cells into the interstitial fluid, and from interstitial fluid, carbon dioxide enters into the plasma. Some of the carbon dioxide also enters into the RBC also. So this process actually involves the oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. And these two topics are also there in our syllabus. We will discuss about them in our later classes. So this is this is what happens in internal respiration. Okay. And coming to the last one, sorry, I haven't typed, there is a type mistake. This is cellular respiration. Here it is internal respiration, sorry, but it is not cellular internal respiration. It is a cellular respiration. Third phase is cellular respiration. Okay. Cellular respiration involves four phases in organisms which practice aerobic respiration. Okay, and we will know about what is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration a little later. First of all, let me explain about these four phases. So first phase in cellular respiration is glycolysis. So glycolysis, what is glycolysis? As the name suggests, glycolysis is the lysis of glucose. Okay, lysis of glucose or glucose. Okay, so in this process, glucose molecule is being broken down into two pyruvic acid molecules. And second phase is a Krebs cycle. So by this Krebs cycle, remaining two pyruvic acids are also broken down further to release carbon dioxide. So, and in electron transport, the electrons liberated in these processes, electrons will be transported over a chain of electron transport. So in this process, some energy will be generated. That energy will be utilized in oxidative phosphorylation to produce ATPs. So the purpose of respiration is to produce ATPs. And ATPs are the form of energy that our body can utilize. So here, what is energy? Energy is nothing but ATPs. Okay, for any living organism, energy is what? Energy is nothing but ATPs. So when ATP is produced, it is meaning that energy is produced. So energy is equal to ATP. So ATP production will be done in oxidative phosphorylation. And for this ATP production, oxygen is required. If oxygen is not there, this oxidative phosphorylation cannot occur. And when oxygen is not there, this Krebs cycle electron transport also will not occur. So many organisms, except a few, many organisms, including microorganisms, plants, and animals, most of the organisms, they require oxygen for ATP production or energy liberation, energy production inside their bodies. So in all these organisms, these four phases will be there. Glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport, and oxidative phosphorylation. All these four phases will occur inside these cells. That's why they are called as cellular respiration. And this is the real respiration. Cellular respiration is the real respiration. Okay. So by definition, respiration is the energy liberation process that occurs inside the living organisms. So energy liberation is taking place in this third phase only, in cellular respiration only. Okay. So in this way, organisms which practice an aerobic respiration, that means they take oxygen, they take air into their bodies, oxygen into their bodies. When they take oxygen, then only they are said to be oxidatively aerobic animals or aerobic organisms. So they are aerobic oxidative organisms. So in this aerobic oxidative respiration, these four phases will be there. And in some animals, in some organisms, which do not require oxygen, actually, to be more precisely, they do not get oxygen. They cannot get oxygen. For that purpose, they have developed another alternative method called anaerobic respiration. So even when there is no oxygen, also they can they are able to produce energy or ATPs in their bodies. But in that case, only little energy will be produced from their food materials. But whereas in aerobic respiration, from a single glucose molecule, many ATP molecule will be generated. So in this way, aerobic respiration is very effective one when compared to anaerobic respiration. So these are the four phases. We can let us see where these processes occur inside our body. So glycolysis. Glycolysis occurs inside the cytoplasm. Okay. So you just imagine that this diagram is a cell. Okay, the total diagram is a cell. This is all this thing is the cytoplasm. And this box this dark colored box like structure, this is a mitochondria. Okay, this is a mitochondria. And this double layered, dark color layered one, this one is the membranes of the mitochondria. These are the membranes of the mitochondria. So in this diagram, we are having cytoplasm, okay, and mitochondria. So the four phases of cellular respiration will take place in these two cell organelles only. One is cytoplasm, another one is mitochondria. So in cytoplasm, glycolysis will be done, or glycolysis will occur in cytoplasm. In glycolysis, glucose will participate. So as a result of this glycolysis, finally, two pyruvic acids will be generated or produced. So here you have to remember one thing, that what is the definition of respiration? Respiration is the liberation of energy from the food materials. So when energy will be liberated, when a complex molecule is broken down into simpler molecules. When a complex molecule is uh, broken down into simpler molecules, then that process requires breaking down the chemical bonds. Okay, breaking down the chemical bonds. When a chemical bond is broken, the energy which was earlier utilized for the formation of that chemical bond will be released now. So in this way, glucose is having 6 carbons in it. So we need to liberate energy from that glucose. That means we need to cleave those bondings in between these 6 carbons which are present in the glucose. So in this way, if we want to get energy from something, you have to break down it. You have to cleave it. You have to digest it. So this will be done in respiration. So for that purpose, in glycolysis process, a 6-carbon glucose will be broken down into 2 pieces. Each piece is having 3 carbons, and those 2 pieces are called as pyruvic acids. So in this way, in glycolysis, one glucose which is having 6 carbons is broken down into 2 pyruvic acids, which are having 3 carbons only. So a bigger molecule is broken down into 2 simpler molecules. Now these 2 simpler molecules, pyruvic acids, they will enter into the mitochondria. Okay, they will enter into the mitochondria. So after entering into the mitochondria, by undergoing some other changes, the pyruvic acids, they will enter into Krebs cycle. So Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix of mitochondria. Okay, where this Krebs cycle occurs? Krebs cycle occurs in the matrix of the mitochondria. So in this process, what happens? Pyruvic acid are having 3 carbons. By the end of these pyruvic acids, these 3 carbons in these pyruvic acids will be broken down, and 6 carbon dioxides will be liberated. So 6 carbon dioxide will be liberated. So in this way, by the end of this Krebs cycle only, glucose will be broken down into 6 carbon dioxides. But energy liberation, energy production will not be done by this Krebs cycle. By the end of this Krebs cycle, energy liberation will not be done. Why? Because when glucose is being broken down into carbon dioxide all this way through this glycolysis and through Krebs cycle, in the intermediate phases, okay, in the intermediate phases, some NADHs will be formed, and some FADH2s also will be formed. So these NADH and FADH2s, they are storing that energy. Okay, they are having the energy, but this energy is not utilized by the body. So the FADH2 energy, the NADH energy has to be converted into ATPs. So converting FADH2 energy, NADH energy will be done in next 2 stages. That is electron transport chain, okay, and next oxidative phosphorylation. So electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, both these 2 phases occur on the membranes of the mitochondria. So this membrane of mitochondria is having electron transport chains. So these NADH and FADH2s, they will transfer electrons to this electron transport chain. While they are transferring electrons to this chain, energy also will be transferred to these chains. So while these electrons are being transported over these electron transport proteins at some phases by the utilization of oxygen, by undergoing this oxidative phosphorylation, ATP energy will be liberated. So by the end of this electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation, finally ATPs will be used. So this is how cellular respiration occurs inside the cells. So this is the real respiration that occurs inside the cells. So with this, we have finished the introduction to respiration process. In our next class, we will discuss in detail about the respiration gases, respiratory gases that are oxygen and carbon dioxide. How the oxygen and carbon dioxide transported inside our blood. So that makes the internal respiration. So in next class, we will discuss about internal respiration, how the oxygen is transported in our blood and body, and how carbon dioxide is transported in our body from tissues to lungs. So with this, this class is over. Students, thank you.